The world of indie gaming got a whole lot deeper with the release of Hollow Knight in 2017. Developed by the small but mighty Team Cherry, this Metroidvania took players to Hallownest, a ruined kingdom filled with bugs, bosses, and destroyed beauty. In celebration of the release of Silksong, finally, we're gonna go through the early days of Hollow Knight development up to the years after its release, as we count to 107 facts about Hollow Knight. Again, if you're interested to go deeper into the facts, feel free to go into the source doc in the description. Alright, let's go. Number 1. Hollow Knight didn't just become the indie juggernaut that we know of today, it started with William Pellin and Ari Gibson, who met through mutual friends 15 years before actually working on games together. It wasn't until they started participating in game jams together that they eventually formed Team Cherry. Number 2. Hollow Knight didn't even start off as a Metroidvania. Instead, Hollow Knight actually grew out of a smaller prototype called Hungry Knight, which Team Cherry made during Leaderboard 2013, which is a game jam. Number 3. Hungry Knight was a top-down survival game, far different from Hollow Knight. The theme of the game jam was 10 seconds, which is how the survival aspect comes into play. Players had to keep the main character alive by killing the enemies and feeding them every 10 seconds. Number 4. While the game itself was different from Hollow Knight, Hungry Knight would introduce the Knight that would become the nameless hero in Hollow Knight. According to Team Cherry, they liked the main character and general aesthetic so much that they fleshed out and expanded on it. Number 5. Fun fact, you can actually play Hungry Knight on Newgrounds and other Flash-based websites. Number 6. So how did this idea turn into Hollow Knight? After Ludum Dare, the team came across another game jam with a theme, Beneath the Surface, a concept that resonated deeply with them. Although they missed the deadline, the theme stuck in their minds and they explored ideas that can bring it to life. It kind of reminds me of how, like, when you're in a conversation and you mess up, and then later in the day you're just like, man, I should have said this. Oh, and it starts to eat at you. It's kind of like that, but more positive, because a game came out of it. Number 7. After iterating different ideas in their head, the one concept that seemed to click with the theme was the one that would help birth Hollow Knight. A little insect knight exploring an old kingdom beneath the surface of the world. Number 8. Why insects? Well, according to Pellin, insects were just cool. He mentions that there's a lot you could do with insects since there are so many and they're so weird. It was also a cool angle since there aren't many insect-themed stuff. At least back then. I don't know about now. What, it's 2025? It's been more than 10 years already? Number 9. William Pellin admits he only thinks real bugs are alright. In fact, he prefers to keep at least a meter between himself and the insects, which, if you think about it, makes a lot of sense when you remember he lives in Australia, where things just randomly want to kill you. Number 10. All of that inspiration gave birth to Hollow Knight's setting, Hallownest, a vast underground kingdom of insects and strange creatures, now fallen into ruin due to the infection, an ancient sickness that's run amok. Its interconnected caverns, cities, and ancient halls create a haunting yet beautiful atmosphere. Number 11. What makes the setting so beautifully eerie is the background art, and you can thank Ari Gibson for that. Gibson's hand-drawn sketches of the background were actually just photographed, cleaned up digitally, and scanned directly into the game's engine. Number 12. One of the things players will discover pretty quickly, actually, is that the world evolves ever so slightly. For example, the Forgotten Crossroads, which is one of the earliest areas in the game, evolves into the Infected Crossroads, all while transforming enemies into more deadly variations of themselves. It was a way of solving the backtracking issue that Metroidvanias tend to have, where earlier areas would become way too easy once the players level up their characters. Of course, personally I don't mind that because it makes you feel badass, but I can see how it can become repetitive. Number 13. The prototype for Hollow Knight was developed using Stencil, a game-making tool that makes you build games quickly. But as the project grew and console releases were considered, the team transitioned to Unity for greater flexibility and scale. Number 14. When asked about influences for Hollow Knight, Ari Gibson named NES-era games. Specific games include Zelda 2: The Adventures of Link, Faxanadu, and Metroid. Faxanadu in particular was mentioned as one of the key inspirations for Hollow Knight, but in an inverted way. While Faxanadu pushes players to climb upward through its world, Team Cherry flipped the idea on its head, sending players deeper into the underground kingdom of Hallownest. Number 15. Pellin, in another interview, cited Mega Man and Mega Man X, which served as the model for the movement in Hollow Knight, specifically in terms of having players feel totally in control of their characters at all times. Number 16. Hollow Knight and its setting weren't always as big as it is in the final game, with the original goals for the game being a Metroidvania that was small in scale. Pellin mentioned that at one point Hollow Knight would have been only 2 hours or something. That was until 17. Team Cherry turned to Kickstarter, and that Kickstarter blew up. Gibson and Pellin actually debated a bit on the number before launching the Kickstarter, ultimately raising the final goal from 30,000 Australian dollars to 35,000 Australian dollars. Number 18. Due to the Kickstarter's success, surpassing their goal with 57,138 Australian dollars from 2,158 backers, it allowed Team Cherry to level up their project into something that was even bigger, with funds giving them about 2 years to scale the project up. Number 19. The additional funds also allowed Team Cherry to bring in additional key collaborators, David Kazi as technical director and Christopher Larkin as composer and sound designer. Larkin, in particular, who already knew Ari Gibson, had sent the team a demo during the Kickstarter campaign before officially joining the project. Number 20. Early in development, in an interview, Team Cherry was asked about, mechanically, what would happen when the player dies. Pellin gave a bit of a non-answer, saying that it would be a surprise. That was before realizing this was something they didn't consider yet. The mechanics evolved from the knight's death animation, which they already had done, and shows his head falling and cracking on the ground. From this, Team Cherry imagined players running to the spot of their death and cracking open the skull to retrieve their money. Number 21. This didn't stop here, as the concept further evolved into the shade mechanic we know today. Instead of there just being a skull in the ground, they questioned what would happen if the skull was possessed and fought back. This is what eventually became the Shade, a ghostly version of the knight that players must defeat to recover their lost Geo. Number 22. One of Pellin's favorite mechanics that they added into Hollow Knight is bouncing off enemies' heads with their attack. It started as a solution to needing vertical attacks, seeing as originally the knight could only attack left and right, and they would soon add flying enemies, so they needed upward and downward attacks. Now when you attack, you bounce off enemies, and bouncing quickly became a feature he loved since he finds that there's something inherently fun about bouncing off things. Number 23. Another feature of the game that became the developers' favorites was the Hunter's Journal. When you fight enemies, the game gives you lore about them. So the Hunter's Journal made fighting not just about combat, it made the player care about the bugs that you were fighting. Again, hard agree, because I love when games have all this extra content that deepens the world. Number 24. One of the hardest decisions that Team Cherry had to make while developing the game was cutting the Wii U version of the game, which happened to be a Kickstarter reward as well. The devs loved the Wii U, but as development went on and the Wii U's relevancy was being overshadowed by the Switch, development shifted focus to the Switch. Number 25. A beta build of Hollow Knight was sent to Kickstarter backers in September of 2015. Then, this same build was later released as a sneak peek for Humble monthly bundle subscribers in February of 2017. Then, in September of 2020, Team Cherry released the beta to users in the Hollow Knight Discord server, giving everyone access to the beta. You can actually still download it to this day, so all you have to do is honestly find a link. I'm pretty sure it's in the Hollow Knight wiki. Number 26. Hollow Knight originally released on February 24th, 2017 for PC, Windows, Mac OS, and yes, even Linux, via Steam and Humble Store. It later came to Nintendo Switch in June of 2018, and to PlayStation 4 and Xbox One as the Void Heart Edition in September of 2018. Number 27. For the Switch version in particular, Team Cherry worked closely with Nintendo for its release. While it didn't launch, quote, not too long after the Switch launch, Nintendo gave Team Cherry the idea to release the game during their E3 2018 Nintendo Direct, where the release date was revealed to be later that day. Number 28. Unlike on Switch, PlayStation, and PC, Hollow Knight never got a physical Xbox release. Microsoft requires a large minimum print for discs, and Fangamer, the publisher of the physical editions, likely chose not to commit to that. And honestly, it's a little frustrating for me because I usually buy multi-platform games on Xbox, so the OCD personality in me hates the inconsistency in my collection. I got it for Switch, because Switch is where I buy a lot of indie games, but really, I wanted the higher resolution, which I know people are like, just go digital, but I like physical copies, and that's just me. Number 29. Although the knight is never given a true name in-game, several characters refer to them with nicknames, including Little Ghost from Hornet, Little Traveler from Elderbug, Oro and the Nailsmith, and Little Wanderer from Bretta and Relic Seeker Lem. Even Gibson and Pellin at one point said that the knight wasn't even its name, just something they refer to it as. Number 30. Steam, however, had other ideas, with its trading card mistakenly referring to the knight as Hollow Knight, a mix-up in the same vein as calling Samus Metroid or confusing Link for Zelda. Number 31. Team Cherry has confirmed in interviews that the knight is genderless. Although they refer to the knight as he sometimes, they've already admitted it's due to force of habit when they were developing the game early on, not really knowing who the knight was or would become. Number 32. Now, with a game like Hollow Knight, one developed with tender loving care, there are a bunch of small details that you could miss. For example, signs all around Hollow Knight can be broken, however they're fixed behind the scenes by a little old NPC called Menderbug. Number 33. While the Menderbug is rarely seen, there's still a chance. Menderbug has a 2% chance to appear at the entrance of the Forgotten Crossroads, just below Dirtmouth, and will only spawn if the entrance sign had been destroyed and the knight leaves and re-enters the room. You can kind of spot him and he gets surprised that he sees the knight. Number 34. False Knight's mace is actually alive. False Knight is the first boss encounter in the game, and once defeated, he falls to the ground along with his weapon. However, if you remain there long enough, the mace gets up and starts walking away. Number 35. The Mantis Lords are 3 sisters, leaders of the Fungal Wastes, who uphold a strict code of honor. Their brother betrayed that code and sided with the infection, becoming the Traitor Lord. And in their throne room at the Mantis Village, there's a hidden detail that reveals a 4th broken throne, which is a symbol for their brother's fall from grace. Number 36. Later in the game, you're tasked with bringing the delicate flower item to the grave of the Traitor Mantis' child in the Queen's Gardens. After completing the quest, additional flowers can still be obtained, allowing the knight to deliver them to other characters even after the Grey Mourner has departed. Potential recipients of this flower include Elderbug, Nailmaster Oro, and the Godseeker, while other NPCs like Eternal Emilitia and the White Lady can also be interacted with, however, they decline the flower. Number 37. Fangamer, you know, the ones that release the game physically. Of course, because it's written through the perspective of a single individual, there are some things that probably don't match up. I haven't personally read the book, but I know of its existence, and I love when things like this exist because, again, just like extras in the lore book in-game, it just expands the world beyond the game, and I love that. Number 38. A small tidbit within the book is that one of the characters that you could actually find in-game, Relic Seeker Lem, tried to purchase Elena's journal for 200 Geo, matching the value of Wanderer's journals found in the game. Number 39. The Pill Flip, an enemy lurking in the Royal Waterways, can attack the player either right side up or upside down. Its name is a palindrome, reading the same backward and forward, which mirrors how it's able to attack the players in different orientations. Number 40. While traversing the Howling Cliffs, you can actually skip the King's Road section entirely by using the Crystal Dash to the right, sending the knight straight down into Dirtmouth. Little shortcut for people that don't want to take the long way. Number 41. The Collector is one of Hollow Knight's strangest hidden bosses, and true to his name, he's a collector through and through. If you're defeated by him in his lair, he actually captures your shade as part of his collection, trapping it alongside the other things he's hoarded. Number 42. One of the NPCs in the game, Mr. Mushroom, makes reference to Hungry Knight in his first dialogue with the knight, saying, "It's nice that you were able to help your friend, so you're not hungry anymore?" Number 43. During his third encounter, Mr. Mushroom rambles about wealth, the dead not needing it, and providing food, shelter, and toys for a big brood. At first, it sounds like nonsense, but it's actually an Easter egg. The dialogue is a reference to Tomb Cat, an earlier Team Cherry game where you play as a mother cat collecting treasure to provide for her kittens. Number 44. When speaking to merchant NPCs, you can actually speak to them normally outside of their shopping menus by initiating conversations to the right off to the side. Number 45. This one I learned from a video called 10 Minutes of Useless Hollow Knight Information, but the 2 different fonts in Hollow Knight are Trajan Pro Regular and Perpetua. Some might identify Trajan as the movie font and it's used for titles, while Perpetua is used for in-game dialogue. Number 46. As promised by Team Cherry, there are 4 free major updates to Hollow Knight. The first is the Hidden Dreams update released on August 3rd, 2017, which added 2 optional dream bosses called Grey Prince Zote and White Defender, introduced the Dreamgate fast travel item, and included several new music tracks by Christopher Larkin. Number 47. The Grim Troop update, which released on October 26th, 2017, introduced the Troops questline, allowing players to summon the mysterious group to Hallownest while adding new characters such as Troop Master Grim and Nightmare King Grim, and the Grim Child Charm, and new enemies. Number 48. The Lifeblood update, released on April 20th, 2018, polished the game's performance and visuals while introducing the Hive Knight boss, rebalancing existing encounters, adding blue Lifeblood cocoons across the world, and improving maps and markers for exploration. Number 49. One of the quality of life improvements introduced in the Lifeblood update was standardizing the number of life seeds from Lifeblood cocoons. Instead of randomly giving between 2 and 4, they now provide a consistent amount each time. Number 50. Speaking of Lifeblood, did you know that they're a type of fruit? Well, Alina the Chronicler states that the lifeblood outside of the Lifeblood chamber in the Abyss is a fruit. What do y'all think it tastes like? Number 51. The Godmaster update, released on August 23rd, 2018, expanded the endgame with pantheons that function as boss rush challenges in Godhome, allowing for new boss variants, remixed encounters, additional lore, and the ultimate pantheon of Hallownest, one of the toughest challenges in the game. Number 52. The Godmaster update was originally called Gods in Glory, The update's title was changed at the last minute, partly because the new name felt more distinct and better captured the tone of Hollow Knight, but really it was to avoid clashing with the title of a mobile game owned by a major publisher. Number 53. If you fight Grimm in the overworld in his tent, he'll bow towards the knight. However, little detail change, if you fight him in Godhome, you can see him bowing to the audience in the background instead. Number 54. Due to the updates in the game, the completion percentage of the game increased as well. Instead of 100%, you'll need to reach 112% to fully complete the game. Number 55. One of my personal favorite and coolest parts of Hollow Knight's Kickstarter was that certain backers actually got to help design characters. These community creations weren't just, we'll add your name to a character. They became full NPCs, bosses, and ghosts that you can encounter throughout Hallownest. The next few facts will obviously cover these characters. Number 56. Cloth, which was created by backer Noah Sturtridge, is a cicada warrior who dreams of adventure. You'll first find her resting in fungal wastes, and if you follow her story, she can even fight alongside you against the Traitor Lord in Queen's Gardens. Number 57. Tiso, designed by backer Tiso Spencer, is the arrogant warrior obsessed with the Colosseum of Fools. When you first meet him, he wants to challenge the knight, and throughout the game, you can actually find him in different areas, with his final resting spot being a ledge in Kingdom's Edge. Clearly, it also didn't end well. Number 58. The Grey Mourner, credited to backer Felindira, is a grieving widow and formerly one of the 5 great knights of Hallownest who tasks you with delivering the delicate flower. You'll find her weeping in the resting grounds, where she offers one of the game's most emotional quests. Number 59. Took, or Tuck, designed by backer Emily Doolin, is an eerie little merchant bug who trades rancid eggs. You can find her tucked away in the royal waterways, sitting among piles of junk. In Steel Soul mode, a mode found after finishing the game, you can actually find Took dead, which her corpse being infected. She can't be interacted with, but you'll find a single rancid egg on her body. Number 60. Eternal Emilitia, created by backer Gavin Douglas, is the extravagant aristocrat lounging in the City of Tears. She lives in a side room that also connects as a shortcut into the royal waterways. Number 61. Several of the Dream Warrior bosses were backer creations, including Elder Hu, everyone's favorite boss Margoth, Gorb, and No Eyes, which each one of these duels expanding on Hallownest's lore. Number 62. Backer-designed peaceful spirits can also be found across the map. These include wandering ghosts who don't fight, instead appearing in quiet corners of Hallownest as reminders of bugs that have long since fallen. Number 63. The Shrine of Believers is a hidden chamber in the resting grounds. Inside, you'll find stone tablets inscribed with real Kickstarter backer quotes. They get to forever be part of Hallownest's history. Number 64. Going back to some development facts, Kingdom's Edge was originally part of the Deep Nest. After a certain lava area, which we'll talk about in a second, at the bottom of the map got removed, parts of the map was shifted around, which resulted in Kingdom's Edge separating from Deep Nest. Gibson considered Kingdom's Edge an extended section of Deep Nest, and even after the split, Pellin pointed out that some of the terrain, like the ground, have that sort of Deep Nest feel to it. Number 65. If you look at the in-game file names, you can see that part of Kingdom's Edge's file names start with Deep Nest East, further proving that this was true. Number 66. The Forest of Bones, or the Bone Forest as called by R. Gibson in an interview with Game Informer, was envisioned as a massive area for the late game. One of the reasons for cutting it was that the team was already inundated with other enormous areas in the game, that all of these areas would have suffered if the team had to shift resources to another area. Number 67. The Forest of Bones was pretty far along in development before eventually being cut, with most of the structure in place. While it didn't have enemies at the time, the devs were able to run around and see the bone structures. There was even lava, which, number 68, was a point of contention for Ari Gibson. The Forest of Bones was originally found in the top right corner of the map. Gibson didn't like that there was an area with lava close to the top of the map, so later in development the area was moved to the bottom of the map with a new area, Deep Nest, created to connect it with the rest of the map. Number 69. A sub-area called the Holy Grounds within the Forest of Bones was planned as a corrupted temple lit by torches, guarded by lava worms, and housing one of the Dreamers. Number 70. While there isn't official confirmation as of writing this video, fans have noticed similarities between the Forest of Bones and new areas found in the Hallownest sequel, Silksong. Areas like Bone Bottom, the Marrow, and Deep Docks exude the original concepts for the Forest of Bones. Number 71. Additionally, the areas I mentioned in my last fact contain ant enemies. These enemies were one of the cut enemies that were originally set to appear in the Forest of Bones, further reinforcing this idea that the Forest of Bones was reworked into the new areas in Silksong. Number 72. A snail village appeared in early trailers like the Weird and Wonderful World trailer, but was removed before release. Ari Gibson said that the snail was too big and a bit toonier compared to the final game. Number 73. While Shelly the snail was gone, the snail's design in the game looked more in line with the game's final art style and atmosphere. Gibson mentions that Bardoon, located in Kingdom's Edge, was likely the final version of the snail. Number 74. Another creature from the Weird and Wonderful World trailer was a giant spider. This creature doesn't appear like a normal enemy and is seen in the background of one of the scenes. There has been no confirmation whether this creature was a boss, NPC, or even just some sort of background entity. All I know is that if you're afraid of spiders, you might not want to encounter this one ever. Number 75. While we're still talking about spiders, Team Cherry showcased an enemy called a Spider Mage, which were, as you guessed it, a spider-like enemy that would lurk within Hallownest. In the end though, these enemies were cut from Hollow Knight, but seems to have made a return in Silksong. Number 76. Hollow Knight's variety of insects and creatures also once included the Blundering Obelisk, which was intended to be a centipede that would charge forward. Unlike some of the other cut creatures in the game, the Blundering Obelisk didn't have an area. Number 77. Despite the Kickstarter stretch goal not being reached, the Coliseum of Fools, slated for $62,000, was still added to the game. This was made possible with additional funding by PayPal backers. You can find the Coliseum at the top of Kingdom's Edge, where the knight can participate in trials, battling waves and waves of enemies. Number 78. The Coliseum of Fools almost had a fourth trial, sometimes called the Trial of the Fool's Fool. It never made the cut, leaving us with 3 brutal trials in the final game, which, honestly, I think is enough. Number 79. Multiple charm concepts, such as the Unending Greed, Vengeful Swarm, and variants of existing charms, were shown in early Kickstarter visuals, but were either cut, merged, or just renamed. Number 80. William Pellin once considered adding a Zote charm that would make the game a one-hit death challenge, but it never made it into the final build. This, of course, being based off of Zote, the character. On Reddit, however, I read one comment by user SickleKid, who pushed back on the idea, pointing out how Zote gets swallowed by giant bugs, pummeled in the Coliseum, and yet he doesn't flinch. As they put it, the one thing Zote can do is take a beating, and I mean that in a good way, so this person definitely believed that the Zote charm shouldn't have been a one-hit death challenge. Number 81. Speaking of Zote, every time you defeat Grey Prince Zote, the dream variant of Zote the Mighty, his statue in Dirtmouth changes. More candles light up around it, new titles are stacked onto his name like Terrifying, Gorgeous, Mysterious, and even Invincible, and after the 10th victory, the statue turns gold, which cements Zote's overblown legend in Bretta's eyes. Number 82. While we're still on the topic of Zote, he was originally planned to be the third playable character based on his silhouette shown in the Kickstarter rewards, and if the stretch goal had been reached, Team Cherry intended to create a special mode where all the knight's abilities were Zotified, with a weak nail, dashes that could fail, and knockbacks that sent the player flying like Zote in the Coliseum of Fools, though the idea was ultimately scrapped because the team felt the workload wasn't worth it for the content only a small percentage of players would encounter. If there was a third playable character, who would you actually want it to be? Let us know in the comments below. Number 83. Drya, one of the 5 Great Knights, was originally supposed to be fought in an area called the Queen's Glade. The duel was eventually cut, but her corpse can still be found in-game, in front of where the White Lady's hiding. Number 84. The White Palace had 2 bosses planned in the Kickstarter goals. These were the King's Golem and the Dusk Knight. These 2 bosses would eventually be combined into the King's Mold, as confirmed by Team Cherry. Number 85. In the Hollow Knight beta, there was a mechanic called Backdash, which allowed the knight to dodge incoming attacks with, well, a backwards dash. This mechanic isn't featured in the final version of the game, however, it was discovered that these values still exist in the game's files. So technically, it's still there, but it's not, possible to do it in-game. Number 86. Another ambitious but cut mechanic from Hollow Knight was called Dream Diving. Now, this is crazy. It would have taken the Dream Nail item even further, letting the knight dive directly into the dreams of NPCs and explore their inner worlds. This idea was dropped before release, but traces of it remain in early design notes, hinting at just how ambitious Team Cherry's plans really were before they were hit with the reality of the scale of their video game development. Number 87. Another mechanic seen in early trailers for the game was swimming, and yes, Hollow Knight almost had one of gaming's favorite mechanics. Number 88. In early gameplay videos, there were statues of the White Lady and Pale King found in the room where the Gru's mother was fought. These were removed in the final version of the game, however, what's interesting is that one of the statues is broken. Many assume it's the Hollow Knight based off of early artwork of the map, while others think it might be someone else entirely, like the Radiance. Number 89. An early menu theme for Radiant mode in the Hall of Gods boss rush exists in the game's files but never made it into the final build of the game. Number 90. One of the original Kickstarter stretch goals promised an expansion to the Abyss, complete with 4 new bosses and a Lake of Void area, and while the Abyss made it into the final game, this bigger version was scrapped. Number 91. The Kickstarter stretch goals for Hollow Knight included a questline called The Lantern on the Black Shore, set in the Abyss and centered on lighting its lighthouse. Team Cherry even teased the quest with concept art of a planned boss fight, and while the quest itself made it into the game, the boss encounter was ultimately left out. Number 92. The background music in the Abyss is actually the main title theme, slowed down to a fraction of its normal speed and heavily distorted to create an eerie, unsettling atmosphere. YouTuber Blue SR sped the track by 900%, and you can catch bits and pieces of the main title theme if you listen closely, even with all the distortion. Number 93. In Dead Cells, players can find a portrait of the knight hanging on the wall in the Promenade of the Condemned as a fun Easter egg. Number 94. From one Metroidvania to another, Guacamelee 2 features a poster showing off the knight along with their trusty nail readying up for battle with, oh my, is that Shovel Knight? Yes, the knight looks like they're about to fight Shovel Knight, you know, the one from the other big indie game. Number 95. In Forager, players can unlock and equip a cosmetic skin that turns their character into the knight. All you gotta do is find a skull chest, which should give you the item. I personally haven't played Forager, so I can't say much about it, but it looks fun. Number 96. In The Binding of Isaac, Repentance, a DLC for The Binding of Isaac Afterbirth, there's a direct nod to Hollow Knight in the form of an item modeled after the broken vessel. Number 97. Beyond those previously mentioned crossovers, there are tributes found across a bunch of other indie games. Grime features graffiti of both the Knight and Zote. Bug Fables, The Everlasting Sapling references Millibel, the banker. Fist, forged in Shadow Torch, includes a Dieselpunk version of the Knight. Dandara Trials of Fear Edition hides a collectible Knight figurine. Adventure Pals adds a Knight sticker, and One Step from Eden gives its Ice Needle card the description Sha, a wink to Hornet's battle cry. Number 98. Data miners digging into Outer Wilds found internal references to Hollow Knight's enemy names buried in the code. And while they're unused in-game and likely just placeholders, it shows just how much Team Cherry's work influenced other indie developers behind the scenes. Number 99. In Amphibia, which is a Disney Channel series, there's a moment where Anne stands in front of a bunch of weapons. There are 3 swords displayed on a wooden slab, with the first being the sharpened nail. The other 2 seem to reference other swords like Link's Master Sword from The Legend of Zelda and a sword from Golden Sun. Number 100. There's also a Hollow Knight reference in the Disney Channel series The Owl House as a plush toy. Around 15 to 17 seconds into the opening theme, a small plush version of the knight can be spotted tucked among the other toys, sitting just to the right of King when the spotlight lands on him. Number 101. Team Cherry's Matthew Griffin, otherwise known as Leth, owns a replica of the benches found in Hollow Knight. Damn, I'm kinda jealous because low-key that's a cool thing to own because it's one of those things that are just, if you know, you know. And if you know that bench is designed like the Hollow Knight bench, then it just goes to show that you have really good taste. Anyway, number 102. One of the big promises in Hollow Knight's Kickstarter was a second playable character. That character was Hornet, and the plan was to add her as post-launch DLC. As Team Cherry expanded the idea, the project grew so large it actually spun off into its own full sequel, the game we now know as Hollow Knight Silksong. Number 103. Despite her name being Hornet, Team Cherry explained that she's either a spider, related to spiders, or spider-like, especially considering her mother is Hera the Beast, queen of the spider tribe. On the Silksong Steam page, you can even find that she has a descriptor called Princess Knight, because of her royal lineage, I guess. Number 104. Several years ago, Team Cherry revealed in a Reddit comment that an unused concept for Hornet imagined her as a child of 3 queens, born to Hera, raised by the White Lady, and trained and named by Hive Queen Vespa, though they haven't confirmed whether this idea remains canon. Number 105. Hornet's Needle is a unique weapon, and according to William Pellin, there aren't many creatures that can wield it. Number 106. After years of silence, endless teasings, and mounting anticipation, Hollow Knight Silksong finally released on September 4th, 2025, marking the end of one of the longest waits for an indie sequel in gaming history. What's crazy is that I remember being at E3 2019, seeing Silksong playable. There was like this whole section where Silksong was being played on like multiple monitors, and I decided not to wait in the long line because I thought it would release soon. I never imagined it'd be like 6 years since it finally came out. Number 107. Turns out Silksong didn't require any sort of grand sacrifice, so it looks like YouTuber Mossbag gets to live another day. And that's all for 107 facts about Hollow Knight. I didn't dive too deep into lore here because honestly, YouTuber Mossbag is basically the go-to lore keeper for the game, and if you are a fan of Hollow Knight, you probably already know who this is. If you haven't seen his videos yet, I highly recommend you check them out, because his knowledge of Hollow Knight is incredible. If you're interested in more details about these facts, you can find the source document linked in the description below, and if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching the Leaderboard, your home for video game facts.